Hey everybody.
Hi guys.
We're at the Newseum today. Newseum in Washington, D.C. Journalism history, broadcast news history, history. All right here. You may not know this. You know I was a flight attendant. You know I worked at Disney. But before all that stuff, I was an actual journalist. Yes, my background is in journalism. Worked for a couple of newspapers. We're going to go check out the history here. You don't, newspapers not as big as they used to be. News is constantly changing, but there's some awesome history in here. Come take a look at the Newseum in Washington, D.C. with us. It's going to be a really good time. One of the things you'll see in the right out front of the Newseum every day, newspaper headlines and front pages from around the world. So it's really cool. You can see headlines from all sorts of different states. You know, they tell what they do before dawn every morning. More than 800 papers from around the world transmit their front pages electronically to the Newseum. By 6 a.m., the team begins preparing front pages to enlarge and print for display here. Is your church van a death trap? Here's some cutting news right here. And you can read more information about it in the Cincinnati Enquirer on Sunday. When you enter the Newseum, they give you a visitor's guide that gives you a map and description of what all the exhibits are in the different areas. There's also an initial orientation film that they sort of tell you a little bit about what's going on in the museum, orient you to what it's all about. So we're going to go do that first. If you've seen one of our other videos recently, then you'll know this is not one of the longer escalators you'll be on. In fact, the previous video, escalator ride was almost 3 minutes long. This one, probably about 30 seconds maybe at the most. We finished with our movie, and now it's time to move on to the rest of the museum. First stop is Berlin Wall. Some of you who are old like us will remember when that came down. And that was a huge, huge moment in history. Here we got a section of the Berlin Wall here in the museum.
66 miles.
They have a guard tower in here from the East Germany side of the wall. And this is where the guards would watch the wall and shoot anybody trying to go over the wall tower. Now we're going to go see a little bit of information on the FBI. Do not touch the Unabomber cabin. But we can take a look inside. Let's go upstairs and check out some more exhibits.
Okay.
So one of the things that's cool here on this upper level, they've got this beautiful view of the Capitol. Not just Annette is beautiful as well. They've got this cool view of the Capitol out here. Let's take a look. And here we have a view of the Capitol. It's an overcast, kind of rainy day today. At least the rain's held off for now. Now we're in the Pictures of the Year gallery. You'll find a lot of the pictures that made the news. Fascinating to see some of the photos, how they were shot, or what the context is. As they say when their audio bits there, a good picture tells a lot of information in the story. This next area is pretty cool because it is all about the history of newspapers, and you can look at, there's tons of old newspapers here that you can take a look at and see what was going on in history at different times and look at replicas of the actual newspaper. This appeared in Harper's Weekly in 1874 and was one of the images popularizing the look of Santa Claus. Here's the Police Gazette talking about the shooting of President Garfield. The armistice sign for World War I from the Los Angeles Express in 1920. In my early journalism days, we were typing stuff out on typewriters. My first journalism job was basically in a basement, a guy's basement, and he and I put out a 25-page sports tabloid using an old Apple II computer. And we had paste up boards, and we basically assembled the whole thing, a weekly tabloid on sports covering Tennessee and Tennessee high school football and college football. And we did that all by ourselves. Me and him in the basement, writing articles, interviewing people, shooting our own photos, developing our own photos in the darkroom. We did everything except print the actual newspapers. Even here there's a bit of the coverage on internet news, blogging, and recording your own news. I used to love getting the Sunday paper, and when I was a flight attendant I could fly all over the country and get newspapers from all these big cities, and it was awesome. Check out this old TV camera. It's almost time to go to level 4. This is one of the featured exhibits in the museum right now. They change out the some of these displays and exhibits fairly frequently. This one in particular is focusing on 1968, including the Civil Rights Movement and protests, the Olympics.
What have we got to lose in the first place? Their demands, when you really nail it down, were fourfold.
The 1968 exhibit.
The restoration of Muhammad Ali's title, and was about disinviting South Africa movement. Athletes who trained their whole lives for this Olympics.
9/11. This is going to be a very powerful exhibit, I'm sure. And here's the wall of newspapers from around the world announcing that 9/11 had happened. This one covering freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly.
You cannot.
Even Bart Simpson knows a little something about the First Amendment. Annette is going to play the Race for Your Rights game. Let's see if she answers the questions correctly.
in Charlottesville last night. That's estimated 12 lawsuits released. Other places, hateful remarks still be there at the rally in Charlottesville.
It's a pretty cool map here. The green are free press, the yellow are partly free press, and the red is all not free press, controlled by the government or other organization. All the photos of journalists who've lost their lives covering various events, wars, tragedies. The names of reporters, journalists who've lost their life covering the news. Up above we had the print news, and here we've got a little bit of history of radio, TV, and the internet now. Check out this vintage unit, the Admiral Portable TV from the 1950s. That was portable then, kids. It was the 1960s when TV news surpassed newspapers as the leading source of news for Americans. Hey, there's the Beatles. Early computers, the TRS-80. There's the first Macintosh, using this little device and a printer. That's how me and my buddy were creating a newspaper in the bottom of his basement all by ourselves. Be a TV reporter. This is an interactive exhibit. Let's see how Annette does when she becomes a TV reporter.
See how Bill does when he becomes.
We already know. I've done this before, so you know we need to find what your level of expertise is.
That would be 0.
Here's Annette. She's live from the Capitol. What's going on, Annette?
Yes, thanks, Bill. It seems that there's some wacky cherry blossoms. Yes, that's right. The cherry blossom thief has come by and stolen all of the cherry blossoms off the trees.
No.
It's very sad and tragic. People are going crazy. The mayhem is just incredible. So back to you.
Annette, are you really at the Capitol?
What?
Turns out this is fake news.
The trees walk. See that? It's an event not to be missed. To enjoy an array of activities and the Feed the Trees walk. See that? It's an event not to be missed. For Museum Network News.
They even grieve their dead.
There's an interactive VR thing, and Annette spotted it has an elephant VR. So she's checking out the elephants.
Elephants are highly intelligent and curious creatures. She just wants to see whether we're friend or foe.
Ma'am, have you had a good time at the museum today?
Well, sir, I have. It's been quite an experience. It's gone by.
Thanks, we don't have any more time to talk to her. We're gonna have to move on and talk to some other people. Oh, who am I kidding? Come back here. Come back here. Do you have anything else to say?
No.
Doesn't matter. So that's it. That's the museum. We just finished with the Pulitzer Prize section. We didn't video that, but you have to check out all the areas of the museum in a lot more detail. There's so much more that you can see here. If you do come to DC and you go to visit the museum, you buy a ticket online, you get a little bit of a discount, and it's good for 2 days. You can go 2 consecutive days, so you can spend a little time one day, come back, go another day.
Give yourself enough time if you're only doing 1 day.
Yes, it's we've been here what, at least 4-ish hours, and we
kind of rushed.
We got to move on, but we could spend a lot more time here. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting, telling your friends. Join us on one of our next journeys soon, maybe even next week. And remember, most importantly, have a good time all the time.